Hey everybody, it's Ro with Ro's Wigglers coming in for another video. Last time I showed you all how I was sifting worms from my larger worm bins that are my grow out bins and was using those worms in order to create my ready to go worm bins that I'll be selling locally and at vendors events and things like that. Well, now I wanted to kind of show you this next step for how I take what I sifted before through the 1/4 size sifter and sift that again to remove the cocoons for growing out the worms and having just the finest product in for the worm castings that I'll be selling. And then the cocoons will make their way back into our grow out bins. So let me get this part started here. Let me just move this camera a little bit. There we go. Okay, so like I said, last time I had a 1/4 inch screen sifter with my turbo sift sifter here. This time I have 1/8 inch. So see 1/8 here. So this is a smaller size hole. This is going to help me catch some of the cocoons. However, I have found that this size also does not catch all of my red wiggler cocoons. So I've given that feedback to Worm Gear, so hopefully they'll be making a smaller size screen, hopefully a 1/12. I did order a 1/12 to get me through until then, even though I am very, very stuck on this product here. But the 1/12 screen, I'm hoping will actually catch a lot more of the red wiggler cocoons too. But for now, I've got my handy dandy spoon hack, which I'll show you. So this is what this process looks like here. So these are the castings, like I said, that I sifted from the big bin last time. I did let them sit out a couple days uncovered to dry a little bit more so that they would be easier to sift. It does get harder to sift your castings if they're too wet, especially when you get into the smaller size sifting holes. You don't ever want your worm castings to dry out all the way because we're keeping microbes alive in here. That's the whole purpose. That's why we want this beautiful rich black gold. But we do want it to dry out enough that we can sift. And so that's where I've got this at today. So I've got my recycled reused cup here that I always use for sifting. It seems to be about the perfect size. I'm just going to take this, put it into my 1/8 size sifter screen, do some sifting. And you can see a lot of that fell right down through into the bin. And what we've got left here is just these little bits. A lot of the perlite and the bigger bits that aren't broken down. Perlite is these little white things. And that is what comes in a potting mix. It's what helps with drainage and aeration in your potting soil. It's a very beneficial thing. But we're sifting out some of the bigger bits before we sell these worm castings. I am seeing several worm cocoons in this screen, which is great. So we are catching some. And I think what's happening here is I'm catching the European nightcrawler worm cocoons, and they are bigger, and the red wiggler cocoons are smaller and are still fitting through these holes. Let me see if I can, let's see here. I don't know if I'll be able to show you a close-up of these cocoons, but I'll get one little small one. Let's see here. Whoops. See if I can get it. And it fell through the hole. Okay, but I got it. So this here is our little cocoon. This lighting is not great. I'll pull down the camera at the end and show some cocoons. But yeah, so this is catching some cocoons, and I'm definitely throwing those into this bin here, which is going to go into my grow out bin, plus any of the bigger pieces, which means that when those babies hatch, they'll be able to break this down even further. And then what I do, since again, like I said, some cocoons do slip through these holes, is I'll move this part out of the way, and I do a little look over and look for any cocoons I see floating on the surface. I see one here. And I'm just going to scoop it up with my spoon. I have found this to be a really good hack um, as a way to get these little cocoons up. It's kind of hard to do with just your fingertips, and you feel like you're going to smash them. Ooh, here's a big one. This little cocoon here. It's going to go in there. Here's one here. These worms have been very busy, which is great. This is what I want to see. A good amount of cocoons. Okay, and then I'll put this back on and do another round. Same step again. This here. Sift, sift, sift. These castings look absolutely gorgeous. I am so impressed with the work these worms have done. I see lots of cocoons just in this screen alone. They're going to be hatching and living their best life in the grow out bin until they get mature enough to go into the breeder bins. Okay, again, I'm going to look for cocoons in here. Oh, I see a lot in this round. This is fantastic. Okay, get as many out as I can see. This is one of my absolute favorite meditative things to do, by the way. It's just very soothing. If anybody ever did like Where's Waldo or I Spy or any of those games when you were kids, the books where you search for things, it feels a lot like that. I love looking for these little cocoons. They are awesome. Okay, well, one more. And I will tell you, I will not find every cocoon. I would love to be that amazing, but I know I'm just not. But right now, I am still trying to get as many as possible. As I get further along, this may prove to not be as worth my time once I build up my worm stock and have enough that it's okay if I lose a cocoon or 5. But right now, I do really want to catch as many of these cocoons as I can because I'm still trying to um, build my population of worms. So, wow, this batch really had a lot of cocoons. This is impressive. Okay, and if I didn't mention it already, I don't think I did. A cocoon is basically a worm egg, and each cocoon can really have between 1 and 3, sometimes more, baby worms in that cocoon. So that's a really cool thing. And if you're someone who likes, looking for 4-leaf clovers or little things like that, I find looking for worm cocoons to be pretty magical. And then if you take it a step further, looking for a worm cocoon where the baby worm is in the process of hatching, that's gold. I love, love, love that. It just makes my whole day. Sift, sift, sift. Again, we got some big bits here. I see, yeah, wow, a good amount of cocoons in this batch. Knock that down. Put this over here. Look for some cocoons. There's one here. Let me know what questions you all have. I know that I am really curious what folks are out there wanting to learn. I know that I'm really trying to gear Rose Wigglers to beginners, folks that are interested getting started. But of course, I always want to hear also from experienced worm farmers, people who keep worm bins, people who have used worm castings in their garden. Would love to see your comments, would love to hear a comparison of how you're doing this. All of that is always helpful, both to me and whoever is following along on the channel. So please do share in the comments. And I'm still so new that I really get excited every time I get even just one little comment. So that has been a really fun adventure for me to see who's been commenting on my videos and what they have to say. It's been really cool. Okay. You can see I'm just really finding so many cocoons in this batch here. I'm pretty amazed. And what this tells me when you find a lot of cocoons and baby worms in your worm bin, that is a really good indicator that your worms are happy and healthy and their conditions are exactly the way that they need to be. They're optimal. If you're not seeing a lot of reproduction, it could be that something is maybe a little off in your bin, that it's making the worms a little unhealthy, or it could also be that your population is so big that the worms have stopped reproducing. Because they actually will self-regulate. So if you have already a lot of worms in your bin, the worms will basically be like, oh, if we make any more babies, there's not going to be enough food for us. And they just kind of stop breeding until the population balances out or the space or food amount increases. So if that's the case, what a lot of people will do is they will divide up their bins. They'll take one bin and split it into two separate bins, and then they'll get more cocoons again. Oh yeah, so many cocoons. This is incredible. Okay, get this in here. And basically, I'm just going to do this over and over again until I make it through these trays that I have that I've already done. I've already been through a couple trays already. I don't think I'll take you all along for all of this, but I kind of wanted to show you my process. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Let me get this last little bit of worms here, or cocoons, because I don't want to keep you on here tying up all your time. But I want to show you the step that I'm going to do at the end with this bin of sifted worm castings. Get all these out first. Yeah, these worms have been busy. Okay. Oh, there's another one. They just keep coming. And I haven't seen very many right now baby worms, little wisps, which is telling me that maybe I'm doing this at right about the exact right time before all these started hatching, which is ideal. Now, if you're just doing a worm bin at home and you're not trying to grow your population, you don't have to do this. You can just let your cocoons keep hatching in your bin and let the worms just continue to finish off and eat your veggie scraps for you, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so I made it through that round. I am going to go through and sift the rest of this bin of castings, but I want to show you my little trick for the very end. So once I have this all sifted, and this bin will be basically full of finished castings, I'm going to do one last thing. See, I made a little hole here in the middle, and what I'm going to do is I have this here. So I'm actually a farmer by trade, and I train a lot of emerging farmers. It's kind of my new thing. And one of the things that anyone that I've taught will tell you is they've probably heard me say at least once, we're farmers. We use what we have to make what we need. And so this is a really good example of that. I have these peat pots, which ironically I absolutely hate for growing seedlings in. I've done a lot of side-by-side comparisons, and I will tell you that the plants grown in peat pots next to the plants grown in plastic, which is frustrating because I would much rather it be a more sustainable process, but they're stunted. They are about 1/3 the size and level of healthiness as the plants right next to them grown in plastic. So I do not grow any seedlings in peat pots anymore, but I do have a bunch of these laying around. So what I did is I took and I drilled holes all in and around there. See all these little holes? So this is going to be our bait trap. So I'm going to put this right in the center of my bin. I have this pear that's frozen and very cold on my fingertips right now. And when this thaws, it's going to basically be mushy, sweet deliciousness for the worms. And so, like I said, I'm probably going to miss a good amount of cocoons in here. And so there'll still be some that hatch. So as I let these castings rest, I let them kind of hang out for a while before I pack them up and sell them. This gives me the opportunity to then let any cocoons that I missed hatch and let those babies find their way into this bait cup. See, I see a cocoon right here. Where they'll go in there and they'll start eating on this pear. And when I check it later in a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, ideally a good number of the babies will be in this cup rather than in my worm castings. So I'll get to keep the babies rather than sell them with the worm castings. And I just fill this up with cardboard, shredded cardboard, and that will eventually also wick up that moisture from the frozen pear when it melts as well. So when I finish this, the castings will be all up around the sides of this, and you'll just see this right in the middle, and the worms will just make their way in through these little holes and have a wonderful little treat. So that's it. Let me know what you think. Definitely hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, and if you're local, hit me up. I'm happy to talk about this stuff. I'm now doing deliveries locally within a 20-mile radius of me for free, so you can save on some shipping costs. So that's also an option. Yeah, let me know what you think. All right, till next time.